Hello, this is Matt on the Moon Lambo channel. The crypto market has rallied massively over the past 24 hours, led by Bitcoin, but the real area of interest is altcoins like XRP. That is, if you're looking to get rich. The opportunity to get rich in Bitcoin, not what it used to be. With XRP, well, look at the freaking market cap of XRP. It's only 178 billion compared to Bitcoin's 2.36 trillion. There's way less money in XRP, which represents opportunity. It takes way less money flowing into XRP than Bitcoin to get XRP to double, triple, quadruple in price, and so on. It is not crazy to think that one day XRP would have an equivalent market cap, and not that it would have to stop there, but just to get the to get the idea flowing that XRP is undervalued compared to where it'll be in the future. But why couldn't XRP one day have a market cap of $2.36 trillion? I think the price of XRP can go way higher from where it is. And frankly, the smart money realizes this. And accordingly, the whales have bought $740 million worth of XRP in the past couple days alone. I'll show you that a little bit later in the video. $740 million. And what happened leading up to the point? Just rampant panic selling and people getting liquidated like the idiot sticks that they are. But you know what the truth is? The truth is that there simply isn't enough XRP in existence for everyone on the planet at this price level. I'm telling you, as the demand for XRP inevitably increases, as more and more people, businesses, and institutions jump into crypto, it's going to go through the roof. And I strongly believe that a decade from now, people will look back on the price that XRP was in 2025 and wish they had that entry opportunity. But by then, it'll be long gone. But before going further, I do want to be clear, I do not have a financial background of any kind. I am not offering financial advice, and you definitely should not buy or sell anything because of anything I say or write. I'm just an enthusiast who enjoys making YouTube videos about crypto-related topics, but just as a hobby and just for fun. As I record this video, it is 1:54 a.m. Central Time, so it is now Thursday, October 2nd, 2025. XRP is $2.97. Bitcoin is at 118,581 bucks, and it did continue to rise through the evening even after I posted my last video yesterday in the evening. You can see it got as high as on $119,285. Now, I'm going to talk a lot about XRP in this video, but first I want to share perspective from a handful of analysts talking about Bitcoin, because there's been a lot of talk, including within the XRP community for good reason, about what's going to happen with Bitcoin. There's concern that it may have already topped. And while I acknowledge I don't know what the answer is, I will tell you that I follow a ton of reputable analysts, and the idea that Bitcoin has topped is a minority opinion. And I do recognize that sometimes minority opinions end up being correct, but the vast majority of the time, they do not end up being correct. So we'll see. We'll see if it comes to pass that that Bitcoin has already peaked at $124,000. But the good news is, as I mentioned in my last video, even if that's the case, that doesn't mean we don't get to have a crazy alt season. Even if that's it and Bitcoin breaks down, alt season, my God, you can still absolutely have a face melting rally. I'm just hoping, as I'm sure you guys are as well, that Bitcoin does rip on one last parabolic run for this market cycle to peak somewhere notably higher, because the more money flowing into Bitcoin means, as people inevitably take profit, the more money will ultimately rotate into other coins. Starting with the large caps, Ethereum, XRP, going on down the list, and then into the mid caps, and then into the small caps. And there is still that opportunity. I got to highlight this again. I mentioned this in my last video, but it's worth highlighting here. Zcash is up now 76%. I think last time I highlighted this, it was up like 60% over that 24-hour period. Now it's up 76%. This is not what happens when we're in the depths of a bear market. When you see coins begin to pop off this far into the cycle, this is what precedes a full-blown alt season. So it's not that we know for sure it's going to happen today, tomorrow, next week, next month. I don't pretend to know exactly when it's going to happen, but I've been here long enough to know that when you start seeing coins like this just randomly pop off for no damn good reason, that's actually what happens here. That's what happens leading into an alt season. This is the human behavior that we've seen cycle after cycle after cycle. There was this post from Swiss Block, and I mentioned this before. I mentioned it before the daily close. That's why I want to highlight it again real quick. They posted this yesterday afternoon at 1:27 p.m. They said a daily close above $117,200 breaches the path to all-time high. And we got that. I think it was closer to $118,000 when we got the close. And the close, mind you, occurs at 7 p.m. Central Time. And we got it. So, and this is on-chain analytics from Swissblock consistently doing great work, not some sort of fly-by-night organization here. And they do believe that this means number go up for Bitcoin, which frankly is great for the entire crypto asset class. But again, I will reiterate, even if the top is actually in for Bitcoin, it doesn't mean that we XRP holders are screwed. I still firmly believe what's most probable is we're going to have a massive breakout for alts and still have that opportunity for face-melting rally, life-changing wealth, the whole 9 yards. This is what we've been waiting for. And it's just everything is so perfectly lined up. It's just silly to think that's not probable. Then we had this post from chart analyst Jelly, and this was at 11:28 p.m. on Wednesday, so this is just, what, 2.5 hours ago? And he wrote, this is Bitcoin, of course, he says, "Good morning, Bitcoin locked in a very strong daily close, reclaimed the $118,000 resistance area, and closed above the September highs, averting the potential sweep. Very good start to Q4, send it higher." And so here's another analyst who does believe that the best days even for Bitcoin are yet ahead. Now, of course, I don't think it makes a damn bit of sense to invest in Bitcoin today if you're interested in selling this market cycle. If you really just don't care and you want a dollar cost average in over a span of many years, and you get the highs, you get the lows across many market cycles, if that's your strategy, cool. If you're, I don't think that's what most people are aiming for here. Certainly not in this audience. If you're looking for the most bang for your buck, it is not in Bitcoin. So yes, I want to see crazy amounts of money flow into Bitcoin, and I suspect that is likely to occur here because the more that flows in, like I said a minute ago, the more is going to flow into XRP ultimately. So I'm happy with that. And how about this? This is from chart analyst Cantonese Cat. You got Bitcoin on the screen showing Bollinger Bands. That's what these blue lines are above and below the price action here. And throughout 2024, we talked pretty frequently about XRP's Bollinger Bands. And the tighter the Bollinger Bands get, the greater the force with which there will be a burst when the burst finally happens. Now, the tightness of Bollinger Bands does not indicate whether the burst will be to the upside or the downside, but as I pointed out, consistently throughout 2024, before XRP had its ultimate burst after the November election, we were in a bull market, and so by a lot, the most probable move was that when that thing was going to burst, it's going to be to the upside. And oh, hell yeah, it was. Abso-freaking-lutely. That was it was a massive move for XRP. And now what we're seeing here is tightening of Bollinger Bands for Bitcoin, rather. And so Cantonese Cat wrote, "Bitcoin weekly Bollinger Band has been squeezing. Big move coming within weeks." And I will note, this is after Bitcoin had already been moving throughout Wednesday. This is at 7:11 p.m. So you're talking about, close to 7 hours ago. And even after much of that move, he was like, yeah, you're going to see something real massive within weeks. So sooner than later. So this is yet another analyst who believes that, yeah, we're going higher. A charting guy responded to that and wrote, "It's so beautiful." So clearly he agrees with the concept. I certainly hope that's right. And I'm skeptical of the concept of the top for Bitcoin being in. I would need to see more data and more price action develop, more arguments from reputable chart analysts for me to be persuaded that the top for Bitcoin is in. You never know anything for sure, and I acknowledge that, I always do. But the chart guys don't technically either. It's about probability of outcome, not some sort of math calculation you can use to have certainty as to what an outcome will be. That's not it. But if you look at the macro conditions, any number of metrics surrounding Bitcoin and XRP and crypto in general, the signs point to the high probability, yes, we're going to go way higher before this thing peaks. Here's a post from chart analyst Captain Fabic. You got Bitcoin on the screen here. And this is just from 11:29 p.m. Wednesday, so, about 2.5 hours ago, he posted, "Bitcoin bullish flag upside breakout is confirmed. Midterm target, $140,000 soon." And look, he said midterm target, so he thinks it's actually going to go higher than that. I will just tell you this. If Bitcoin even topped, if it just got to $140,000, my God, the amount of money sloshing around the space at that point would be so buck wild that I'm telling you that would be enough for a life-changing rally in XRP from this point. That's huge. That would be absolutely monstrous. And the amount of FOMO, I mean, to have a final parabola for Bitcoin, even if it peaked at that, and I'm not saying it will peak there. I mean, there's certainly the very real possibility it goes a good bit higher than that. But even that, that's what you want if you hold altcoins, folks. You want to see Bitcoin do really well, even if you don't hold it, because that money ends up coming to you in whatever coin you hold. Here's a post from Credible Crypto. I've actually got two from them, both from just within the last few hours. This is from 9:51 p.m. So, a little 4 hours ago. And he's talking about Bitcoin. He says, blew through that supply zone and took all of our built up liquidity into $119,000. Now facing the final boss before new all-time high. And so he still firmly believes Bitcoin's hitting a new all-time high. He's long said that he thinks Bitcoin's going to peak around $150,000. I'm telling you, even if we just get to that, man, I'm telling you guys, like that's a lot of value in the crypto space. And it's just good. It doesn't, I'll say again, it doesn't take much money going into altcoins like XRP to get crazy multiplier effects. That's why this is exciting. And we're not like a crazy bit crazily far off from hitting that. It doesn't sound as unbelievable as it did back when Bitcoin was like $20,000 or $30,000 when we were talking about it. But now that it has already peaked earlier, just a couple months or so ago at 124,000, seems a lot more achievable, doesn't it? It's funny how perspective changes as you get closer, but it was always plausible, even $100,000 ago, So again, facing what he's calling the final boss here, around $119,000. And then he had this update. This is from 10:10 p.m. Another Bitcoin chart here, and he noted the following. He said, "Will we pull back or bust right through? I'm really not sure." So of course he's talking about in the short term, not big picture. Says, one thing I do see is that this rise off the lows is the most aggressive rise to the upside that we have seen since the last impulsive move off $105,000 around 2 months ago. Watching closely. And he ain't kidding here. I mean, especially for those of you looking at the screen where I move my mouse right here, this is the beginning part of July, so it's been closer to 3 months, but still, look at how vertical that goes, and for how high. That's closer to what you've seen more recently here. Is it not? So hopefully it persists. He thinks there's at least a chance. He's not promising it. He's not predicting that in the very short term it happens, but he does believe we go higher before this thing peaks. And then there is this from chart analyst CW. Bitcoin is attempting to break through the sell wall again. If this sell wall is broken, a real rally will begin. And you can see he's talking about the level we're at basically right now, like around $119,000. Well, that's the same thing Credible Crypto was talking about in this post. Close to, he colored in the level close to like $120,000. They're kind of splitting hairs here. He called it the final boss, and then CW is like, yep, here's the sell wall. So point being, if we get to that, that's when things start to get nutty. So he said here, if this sell wall is broken, a real rally will begin. And isn't it funny how a lot of the typical living retail speculators, they're not interested in the crypto asset class when the prices are really cheap. But they are interested once the prices are at all-time highs. Human psychology, isn't that something? They don't want the coins when they're on sale. As soon as they get ridiculously expensive, they feel validated. And now, because the price is high and directionally it's been going the way that I'd prefer to see, it's now safe to buy. And I feel safe and warm and cozy here. Yeah, okay. Well, that is how humans continue to behave. And that's why it's, when XRP was 10 cents, the idea of somebody buying XRP for $10 might have sounded crazy, but I was like, no, that's not how human psychology works, folks. I held XRP while it was 10 cents back in, March of 2020. And throughout the whole thing, I always believed you could see double-digit price action for XRP. Just because the price is low, that in and of itself is not some sort of indicator that there's a problem from a fundamental perspective with XRP. Just the whole market went down. I mean, that was the pandemic scare, obviously, when it got that low. But people were way less interested when it was 10 cents. But as soon as it's $10, you better believe it. There'll be a line through the door into the street waiting to purchase XRP. That's always how this goes. There's also this from CW. It says the sell wall for XRP exists until $3.25. So he thinks once we get above there, it's pretty much thin air. Now, Doesn't mean that you can't have a new sell wall develop. Doesn't mean there wouldn't be resistance, especially close to the all-time high of $3.65, which we hit in July of this year. But at least in terms of short-term targets and where you're going to find some resistance, that's it. So if we can fly through that, after that could be smooth sailing for a bit. Look at this headline. XRP spikes 5% as whales scoop up $740 million worth of crypto. And they were referencing this post from chart analyst Ali Martinez from, he posted this, like 7 hours ago, roughly. He says 250 million XRP bought by whales in 48 hours. Isn't it just interesting? I just, whales don't get wrong-footed. And I don't doubt that some of this is going to be, activity from cryptocurrency exchanges, but still. Do you think that would be happening if XRP were some sort of dead coin? Do you think that there would be that level of purchasing from anyone or any business or any institution if there weren't real expectations, even in this moment, that XRP goes way, way, way higher? And this is the smart money, folks. This is not stupid money. It's rich people purchasing XRP because they believe it's going to be worth way more in the future. What a vote of confidence, right? That's what it looks like to me. Here's a post from chart analyst Ether National. It's got 2017 XRP on the left and 2025 XRP on the right. And he's pointing out that things are playing out today very samey compared to 2017, which at the time was the most insane rally for XRP in freaking history. You know what happened. XRP was literally the #1 performing coin in the entire crypto asset class. It increased in price from the bottom to the top of the cycle close to like 80,000%, quite literally. It was absolutely wild. And now, mind you, it was a different world back then because there were only like, 1,600 coins in existence, and now they're like tens of thousands. But still, XRP was literally the #1 performer. And I'll just say, like, even if it's not #1, just because there's more competition, even if you don't get, the same type of ROI percentage-wise, I just got to tell you, this is the sweet spot when it comes to crypto investing as far as I'm concerned. There's never been a better time to be an XRP holder because it's clearly an early winner of the crypto space. So in my mind, my humble opinion is there's way less risk than in 2017 or obviously in 2013 when it finally was traded on cryptocurrency exchanges, way less risk. But even though it's a large cap, there's still so much potential upside, which is why I kind of pointed this out earlier. Look, the market cap for XRP, it's only 178 billion. Bitcoin's at 2.36 trillion. I don't know about you folks, but in the coming years, I think this can go way higher. There's no reason Bitcoin can't exceed $1 million. And so that's why I say, even if XRP were a fraction of that, like 20% of that, well, think about that. I mean, this is why I keep saying, and not that you can't get like crazy price for a brief moment this market cycle, if you get crazy euphoria, which I'm hoping for and expecting to some degree. But this is why I keep saying, like, double-digit price action, even in the short term, not crazy here. It really could happen. And so anyway, back to this post, though. This chart analyst says, the XRP Q4 2017 wave is literally there. Whatever happened in 2017 is happening again now. The structure is identical accumulation, move up, reaccumulation, move up, and the path to distribution. And you can see what he's talking about. And so that's why when this popped up in my feed on X, I was like, yes, this is quite literally what I've been talking about for years and years and years and years and years. You get one major burst to the upside, then you get accumulation, it moves sideways, and then you get that final leg up. And that's where the opportunity is to distribute, meaning sell. That's where the opportunity is. And then the bubble forms fully, and then it gets popped, and then you have, the market tank, which is going to, that always happens. It's not unique to XRP. But then you have a higher low compared to the previous market cycle. And then for those that want to accumulate, that's as cheap as it's going to get. You're in that bear market, and then you have that opportunity, which I tell you, I hope to be sufficiently enticed to sell all of my XRP, because when that bear market comes, which it inevitably will, of course it will. There will be a bear market at some point in the future. I'm going to reaccumulate. You better believe it, as people are scared, and then there will be, it's what happens every cycle. The people that were paying attention towards the peak, and they're happy to pay over $10 for XRP. Say it goes back to $3, $4, $5. I don't know where. I'm just making numbers up. I don't know where it's going to go. But say it goes way lower, they won't be paying attention then. They won't be, but I will be. And I'm going to keep running this YouTube channel, and then I'm going to do it again. I'm going to buy more XRP as much as I reasonably can with all of the new money that I'm earning, and I'm just going to run it up again and make even more life-changing wealth and sell at the peak of the next market cycle. Like, we're not going to be done after. I mean, I'm not going to be. You guys do whatever you want to do. There's going to continue to be opportunity for life-changing wealth for the foreseeable future here. I just find it exciting. I really do. And you can see also here the relative strength index at the bottom. You can see for the first leg up in 2017, look at how the RSI rocketed, indicating that you're in overbought territory. Then during accumulation, that went back down. And then for the second leg up, it ramped back up. Okay, compare that to where we are in 2025. For that first move up in November, RSI rocketed. You got into overbought territory, but then it came back down. And we moved sideways here. It went up a little bit in July as XRP hit a new all-time high, but not crazily into overbought territory. And so we're still waiting for it to get into extreme overbought territory, and that'll come when the final leg comes up for XRP price-wise. I firmly believe it's coming. And you can sustain into extremely high overbought territory. We're just not there, folks. This chart is freaking primed. You don't have to be a chart guy. I'm not a chart guy, mind you, but you don't have to be a chart guy to understand some of these very basic concepts. History is rhyming with itself. There's just so much opportunity here. And then there's also this from chart analyst Crypto Scient. And he says, XRP gearing up for parabolic advance. Honestly, I don't see any other major printing a cleaner or more bullish structure right now. Well, I got to tell you, you ain't wrong. And I know what I hate. And I don't hate that. He's right, folks. This thing is so perfectly teed up after being artificially suppressed price-wise for years and years and years because of all that SEC bullshit. Here we are now, and we're going to get ours. That's what's going to happen, folks. We are not done. Even if Bitcoin's peaked, which I'm skeptical of, even if Bitcoin is peaked, and it's possible, it doesn't matter. It's not going to, it won't, here's the best way to consider this. It won't prevent us as XRP holders from getting life-changing wealth. Yes, it would be way better if Bitcoin goes on another parabolic run, peaks around, say it's 150, 140, 150, 160,000 bucks, whatever it ends up being. Anywhere in that range, I will be more than a little bit excited. Because I know that that's just going to supercharge price action for XRP and all the other alts that we hold, frankly. But I'm most excited for XRP because I'm biased, I admit. It's my favorite cryptocurrency. It's my largest holding by a lot. Very excited to see what happens. And I don't think we're going to have to wait much longer, folks. The best is yet ahead. I'm not a financial advisor. You should not buy or sell anything because if anything I say are right, that would be a very, very, very bad idea. Until next time, to the moon, Lambo.